Murderers who blame fictional characters. I ain't gonna lie, if you killing a nigga in GTA and you blaming a cartoon character, bro, you might be mentally ill, bro. This shit, you might be really mentally ill. This about to be a good video, bro. I know it, bro.
Fictional characters. We all love them, right?
Yeah.
Whether they be live action or animated, I'm willing to bet we've all had our heartstrings pulled by them one way or another. But what about being inspired by said fictional character to commit a gruesome crime such as murder?
That shit would be crazy.
That is what today's video is dedicated to. Murderers who blamed fictional characters.
Let's see it though.
Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name is Tub, and I don't know about where you guys live, but over here in LA, it is extremely hot. So that's why your boy can't. Mark Twitchell, the Canadian who wanted to be Dexter.
Dexter?
This seemingly average filmmaker.
Yeah, I know whatever this guy is accused of doing, bro. I know he did it, bro. He has that type of look, bro. Like he really has that type of haircut, that look, the skin tone. No offense, though. Like I know whatever he got accused for, he did it clearly. So let's see what he did, though.
Transformed his garage into a kill room with plastic sheeting, steel drums for body parts, and a butcher kit. First of all, no, that's not the plot of a Dexter episode. And second, yes, that actually happened. This is Mark Twitchell, a Canadian man who didn't just binge watch Dexter, he literally tried to become him. So overall, I'd say his story is as strange as you would expect. Back in October of 2008, for instance, this 38-year-old man named Johnny Altinger went missing in Edmonton. That's somewhere in Alberta, Canada. His friends started getting these weird emails supposedly of him saying he had met some woman named Jen and suddenly took off to Costa Rica. But then here's the thing. His passport was still sitting at home. As they began to dig deeper, they found out that just before vanishing, Altinger had indeed told friends he was meeting a woman from a dating site, but the directions to what was supposed to be her place, though, didn't lead to her or a main house for that matter. They led to a detached garage rented by Mark Twitchell. Now, far from what might be typical to one, he was said to not look anything like a killer. He was in fact apparently almost good looking, and honestly, he lived pretty averagely. Just a normal 29-year-old dad with a wife and little daughter, making indie films and trying to break into the industry. That's what made everything that followed so disturbing. I mean, this dude was so obsessed with Dexter Morgan that he literally changed his profile picture to Michael C. Hall, the actor who played Dexter. Although he kind of left trails everywhere, and that's how he'd get caught. For example, he chat online with this woman, Renee Waring, about hypothetical murder scenarios, and one time, he straight up told her, "You do it like Dexter because Dexter shows you how to do it all the time." Then, as police went through his stuff, they found this deleted file on his computer called SK Confessions.
What did that mean?
You know, serial killer. And it literally began with, "This is a story of my progression into becoming a serial killer." But that's not the only thing they found there. The amount of evidence was actually insane. Blood spatter all over the walls. They even found a fragment of a human tooth in there. Also, pretty weirdly, for almost 2 years, Twitchell wouldn't say where he put Altinger's body. That was until finally, in 2010, when he led cops to a sewer just a block from his parents' house. By this point, there was no escape. Although he tried this bizarre defense, arguing that all of this had been for artistic gains, some project he called the multi-angle psychosis layering entertainment. He actually claimed Altinger attacked him first, but of course nobody was buying that. In 2011, they gave him life with no parole for 25 years. Today, he's still locked up, still claiming he's innocent, saying it was for the people who enjoy watching murder on TV.
He was not innocent, little nigga. Like, come on.
Charles Ng was inspired to kidnap, torture, and murder young women by the John Fowles novel, The Collector. So there's this 1963 novel named The Collector about a lonely man who kidnaps a young woman and keeps her locked in his basement, convinced she'll eventually fall in love with him. Most people read it as a disturbing psychological thriller and move on with their lives. But Leonard Lake and Charles Ng, well, they read it almost as if it was an instruction manual. This happened back in the 1980s.
Stop giving the mentally ill niggas books of how to be a killer, bro. Stop giving them books of famous niggas killing people and doing all these torturous shit, bro. Like, stop giving the mental ill niggas this shit, bro. Because they basically get inspired to this shit and start doing it in real life, and then it gets fucking crazy, bro. Like, stop giving the mental ill niggas these type of books, bro. Give them, like, any other book, basically. Like, give them any other book. Like, come on.
Lake was this survivalist guy obsessed with preparing for nuclear war, while Ng, who you can see here with the thick rimmed glasses that seem, and I'm generalizing a bit here, to be a signature psycho look. Sorry to all my thick frame glasses people, didn't mean to diss you there. I'm sure you guys are not serial killers. Well, he was a former Marine with a rather troubled past, and when they found each other, they created something absolutely horrifying. Lake became completely obsessed with the book and started calling his plan Operation Miranda, named after the kidnapped woman in the novel. He built a concrete bunker on his remote California property, complete with hidden rooms, two-way mirrors, and a list of rules for what he calls his M-ladies. Let me read a few for you. I must be ready to service my master. I must never speak
Nah,
unless
this nigga
spoken
was
to.
fucking
I must
crazy.
never
What
show
the fuck?
disrespect, either verbally or silently. I must obey immediately and without question or comment. So as you can imagine, this was more like an SA torture chamber. There were tools, handcuffs, women's clothing, and videotapes.
What the?
Also, perhaps these two
Freaky
weren't
ass
the
little
smartest
nigga.
people in the world because they had documented their crimes, showing them torturing terrified women while threatening them with death. Anyway, their sick fantasy came crashing down when Ng tried shoplifting a vice from a hardware store. He ran off, leaving Lake to deal with the mess. Lake tried to smooth things over by offering to pay for the stolen item, but police noticed that the car Lake was driving belonged to a missing person. When they searched it, they
dumbass
found a
nigga.
gun with an illegal silencer. He was arrested, but then decided he didn't want to face justice, and so soon after, he swallowed a cyanide pill hidden in his clothes. He died 4 days later. Police went over to their house
Nigga
and
died
found
a
over
bitch,
40
bro.
pounds of human bone fragments buried around the property. While they could only confirm 11 murders, investigators believe the actual count could be as high as 25 victims. Their victims are still being discovered, while Ng waits patiently on death row. Linda Duffy and the Bugs Bunny defense.
Bugs
Next
Bunny
up is a
defense?
couple who like playing risky games to spice things up. Meet Linda and Patrick Duffy.
Okay.
This couple apparently had this thing where they played around quoting cartoon characters and joking just like a couple of kids would. But
Okay.
in April of 2007, these games, silly or not, turned deadly when Linda shot Patrick twice in the head and then claimed it was all because of Bugs Bunny. Yeah, Bugs Bunny.
Bugs
So
Bunny?
here's what Linda
Wait, you killed your husband because of Bugs Bunny? A cartoon fucking rabbit made you kill your husband. I'm not gonna lie, these white bitches are sick, bro. And something about these fat white bitches, bro, they be fucking mental, bro. What the fuck are you doing, bro? What the fuck are you doing, bro? I'm not gonna lie, bro. Stop giving these bitches these characters, bro. Cause what the fuck is happening in real life now? Killing your husband over a Bugs Bunny character, a fucking fictional rabbit, not even a real rabbit, a fictional rabbit. Like, come on.
told the police. She said that she and Patrick were fooling around that day
Okay.
when she picked up one of his revolvers. They did this thing where they talk like cartoon characters, so Linda asked in her best Elmer Fudd voice, I'm gonna impersonate it for you guys, so enjoy this.
Okay.
No more bullets. That sounds so bad. Oh my god. Oh my god, I didn't expect it to sound horrible. I'm not gonna say that again. Oh no, I have to say it again. Apparently Patrick has okay, I'm gonna say it again. When Patrick supposedly replied saying the same thing, no more bullets.
Bro, spit it out, bro.
Okay, so after that exchange,
Okay.
she thought the gun was empty and began fan firing it instantly, like in the
Come
old
on,
Western
bro.
movies.
Come on.
Fan firing means you hold down the trigger and rapidly pull back the hammer to shoot multiple rounds quickly. She claimed she was trying to impress Patrick when he suddenly leaned forward into the line of fire. Boom. 2 shots to the head. She then called the
shots to the
police and
head?
admitted it
Damn.
all right there. I mean, it was an accident, right? Well, the first big red flag was that he'd been shot twice. And the second red flag was that Linda claimed she'd never fired a gun in her life. But a firearms expert proved that fan firing a double action revolver like the one Linda used was nearly impossible for an amateur. You'd have to pull the trigger, release it, fan the hammer, pull again, all while
So she
dealing
was
with the
basically
deafening
a pro
noise and
with a gun?
recoil. That's
And
when
you
Linda
lied about it?
suddenly and out of nowhere and suspiciously remembered she and Patrick had been practicing fan firing for years. Funny
Oh,
how that
damn,
detail
for
just
years?
seemed to slip her mind. But her problems were just beginning. They also found that she must have had to be just inches from Patrick for the first shot, and also that the second had caused a blood pool where she claimed she had been standing. Weird, because if that distance were true, she would have been covered in blood as well, yet she wasn't. So what really happened? Well,
What did
investigators
happen?
believe Linda shot Patrick once while he was sleeping, realized he wasn't dead, then moved closer and fired
Come
again.
on, bro.
So an execution, not an accident, but why? That's what we don't really know. Anyway, for her actions, she got 40 years to life, although she's still claiming that it was
Fucking
all just a
dumbass bitch,
terrible
bro.
accident.
Fucking dumbass.
John
bitch.
Venoblis and Robert Thompson, inspired by a scene from Child's Play 3.
Okay.
In February of 1993, these two 10-year-old boys named John Venoblis and Robert Thompson were supposed to be in school, but they weren't. Instead, they were hanging around a shopping center in Bootlegg, England,
Okay.
shoplifting candy and basically looking for trouble,
Okay,
which
some-
they did
some calm
fine.
shit,
By
okay.
the end of that day, they had apparently found the way to do one of the most horrible things.
What'd
It
they
all
do?
started casually with them watching families with young children all day, sort
Okay.
of like they were browsing at a store. And
Okay.
mind you, by this point, they'd already nicked sweets, batteries, a troll doll, and weirdly enough, a can of blue paint. At 3:42 p.m., they spotted 2-year-old James Bulger with his mom in a butcher shop. They marked him and hovered around. The second she let go of his hand to pay, they walked right up, took James, and led him away.
What the
CCTV
fuck?
footage actually
Wait, so you're telling me 2 10-year-old kids kidnap a 2-year-old, bro? But what the fuck be happening in the UK, bro? No way 2 10-year-old kids are are kidnapping a 2-year-old, bro. I ain't gonna lie, the UK is a fucking war zone, bro. Cause I heard them niggas be walking around with machetes, big ass knives. They be throwing like axe to that niggas, bro. Like I'm not gonna lie, if I was living in the UK, bro, I would be scared out of my mind to leave the house, bro. I am not joking, bro. I'm not saying this for this Twitch shit, bro. If I was living in the UK, I would deadass be scared to leave the house, cause them UK niggas are sick in the head, bro. I would never leave the house if I was in the UK, especially if I was in the hot spots like the England and shit like that or London, bro. I would be so scared to leave the house. Like I would be so
captured
scared.
the exact moment they left the shopping center with him, and you probably may want to brace for this next part. The boys apparently dragged James for over 2 miles through Liverpool.
2 miles?
They ended up at this railway line near Walton Park Cemetery, and that's where things got really, really bad. They tortured him for hours. They threw that blue paint right into his eyes, kicked him, stomped on him, and started chucking bricks at his head. They even stuffed batteries into his mouth.
But for what though? I'm not gonna lie, these niggas were demons, bro. I don't care. And not demons as good demons. These niggas were sick demons, bro. Like, these niggas are fucking sick ass demons, bro. Cause why the fuck are you torturing a 2-year-old as 2 10-year-olds, bro? No way someone who was 10 years old had a good idea to torture another kid who was 8 years younger than him, bro. That's fucking sickening, bro. That's really sickening.
Mouth and dropped a 22-pound piece of metal on him. James had 42 separate injuries when it was all over. Then they put his body on the train tracks, thinking it looked like some kind of accident, and sure thing, a train came through and tore him in half. When the police caught up with the two, it obviously got everyone wondering how the hell 10-year-olds could do something like that. That's when they found out that it all traced back to when Vanibla's dad had rented the horror movie Child's Play 3. You know, the one with the killer doll Chucky. They were trying to imitate some of the movie. For example, there's this scene where Chucky gets hit with blue paint during some paintball thing, very similar to the kids using the stolen blue paint to hit James in the eyes. Anyway, the boys got convicted and locked up until they were 18, then rather strangely, got released with completely new identities.
Why?
Although one of them, Vanibles, couldn't keep his hands clean, and he's been back to prison twice now for having CSAM images on his computer. He's still locked up today, probably as he should. Gabriel Hikari Yad Elohim, and Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach.
Indian, bro? Or like
this
Asian?
one is wild.
What the fuck?
It was inspired by an anime series in a very unhinged way. In 2017, Gabriel Hikari Yad Elohim went to an apartment building in Auckland with a sex worker to buy some meth. She told him to wait downstairs while she went out to make the deal, then basically robbed him, escaping from an upstairs balcony with his $200. Gabriel was absolutely furious. So what did he do? He went straight to 69-year-old Michael Mulholland's apartment and murdered him. Yeah, killing a person that wasn't even involved with the initial situation. Gabriel had never met this guy before in his life. In fact, Mulholland was just some random neighbor who happened to be at home that night.
I'm not gonna lie, this nigga's sick in the head for doing that shit. So you basically got lined by a bitch and you decided for your get back to kill another nigga who's randomly just chilling in his house, bro? Like, are we dead ass, bro? No way you got lined by a bitch for $200. Almost. You jumped off the balcony, and the first thing you thought about doing was killing a random nigga chilling in his apartment or hotel or whatever it happened at. Like, come on, bro. These niggas are dumb, man. These niggas are really slow in the brain.
Stop Gabriel from attacking him in the stairwell, kicking and stomping on his head home that night. That, though, had not stopped Gabriel from attacking him in the stairwell, kicking and stomping on his head for about 7 minutes straight.
What, though?
The poor guy suffered 90 separate blows and died from blunt force trauma to his head, face, and abdomen. When police arrested this psycho, he started speaking in Japanese and acting really weird. The next day, in the interview room, he gave this whole monologue in Japanese that nobody could really make sense of at the time. His lawyers tried an insanity defense, saying he had schizophrenia and was hearing voices, seeing ghosts, and believed he was an anime character. Specifically, that he was part of this anime series called Bleach. Interestingly, they also discovered that Gabriel's real name wasn't even Gabriel Hikari Yad Elohim. That's just something he made up in 2012. He had also told doctors that his name was Yuki Watanabe, and that he was Japanese. Turns out, he was actually Korean, and his real name is Jung Hoon Song. So his defense never stood a chance, and he got convicted of murder and was given life with no parole for 13 years.
Dumbass nigga.
Nathaniel White, inspired by the RoboCop murders from RoboCop 2. Meet Nathaniel White. Back in the 90s, he was just an ex-con trying to get his life together in upstate New York. Then he watched RoboCop 2, and according to him, that movie turned him into a serial killer. He ended up murdering 6 women. Six murders that he claims because he watched RoboCop 2. Definitely not.
Let me see what that is, bro, because that sounds familiar. RoboCop 2. Wait, so you're telling me this old-ass movie made you kill 6 women randomly? I'm not gonna lie, bro. Stop giving mental niggas movie privileges, bro. Cause this is what happens when you be giving mental niggas movie privileges, bro. Cause what the fuck is happening right now? What the fuck is this story, bro? Cause this shit sounds made believe, bro. What the fuck is happening?
he had a mental illness before that. It was because of the movie, guys. It was RoboCop 2. And all
That
the
shit
murders
barely
from the
makes
first
sense,
one
bro.
were pretty horrific. The first one was actually in March of 1991. Picture this. A couple's walking along some abandoned railroad tracks in Middletown when they spot what they think is a discarded mannequin. But at a closer look, it's not. It's a human body. A body that turned out to have been that of 29-year-old Juliana Frank.
R.I.P.
She lay there naked, brutally stabbed over 40 times, and posed in a suggestive position. She was 4 months pregnant, and White had cut the fetus out of her body. When police eventually caught White over a year later, he said Juliana was the first, and that the way he killed her was inspired by RoboCop. In his words, there was a scene where someone gets their throat cut, then sliced straight down the chest to the stomach and left in a posed position. White said he copied it exactly as it was in the film. His second victim was 14-year-old Christine
What
Klebb.
the fuck? What the fuck? No way as a grown man you told the cops that that's why you killed a pregnant woman. You killed a pregnant woman because you seen it off a movie? Yeah, take that nigga to jail, bro. Take that nigga to jail, because what the fuck am I hearing in my ears right now, bro? What the fuck am I hearing in my ears right now, bro? Take that nigga to jail, because what the fuck?
A niece to his own girlfriend.
Let me go
who was
back.
in the film. His second victim was 14-year-old Christine Klebb, a niece to his own girlfriend. Then came Loretta Huggins, a 34-year-old mother of 3 who was in the middle of packing to move back to her home country. She never got the chance.
R.I.P.
Next, he met cousins Angela Hopkins and Brenda Whiteside at a bar. He offered them a ride and ended up beating them to death in the woods. His final victim was 27-year-old Adrian Hunter. According to him, she asked him for money, so he stabbed her 47 times. Perfect reason to be stabbing someone. They just ask you for money, which I doubt that was the full story.
That's
but
fucking disgusting,
normal
bro.
response.
That's really disgusting.
Anyway, he was eventually caught and convicted on all counts.
Good.
He got 150 years to life.
Good.
He's still locked up at Elmira Correctional Facility in New York.
Good. That's
Stephen
good,
Miles
good.
blames Dexter and his alter ego Ed. Next up, we have a Dexter case again.
Oh my
but this
God,
time,
bro.
it inspired a 16-year-old
Oh,
kid
what
in
the
England.
fuck? Whatever he got accused for, I know he did it, bro. You can tell by the mugshot, bro. I'm not gonna say why it makes sense, but it makes sense.
Stephen Miles. And yeah, I know this isn't exactly the photo that screams, hey, just a normal kid. You could definitely tell that he was not all the
Fucking
way there.
sick in the
Back
head, I
then,
could
he was
tell.
an autistic teenager living with his family. He was really into horror movies, struggled socially, and became completely obsessed with the TV show Dexter. But in January of 2014, his obsession went way too far when he decided that he needed to kill someone and picked 17-year-old Elizabeth Thomas as his
R.I.P.,
target.
bro.
Now,
R.I.P.
you should know, and this is heartbreaking, Elizabeth was actually one of the few people who stood up for Stephen when others called him weird or different. She'd befriended him, the awkward
Wait, so you basically killed the only person who stood up to you, the only person who stood up for you, the only person who wanted to talk to you, weird ass? Like, come on, bro. This nigga's fucking sick in the head, bro. No way you killed the only person who wanted to talk to your crazy ass, the only person who was helping you while you was getting bitched in school. Like, come on, bro. That's fucking sickening, bro. That's really sickening.
kid he was, and genuinely tried to help him fit in.
Like, that's
but that
fucking nasty,
kindness is
bro.
what made her the target. Stephen called her his quote-unquote project, which is absolutely chilling because it understates what he was actually planning. On January 24th, he stabbed her in the head and back at his family's flat.
What the
But just
fuck?
like his TV hero Dexter, he didn't stop there. He grabbed saws and tools from his dad's tree surgery business and started dismembering her body, cutting off her legs and arm, then wrapping everything in cling film and stuffing the pieces into bin bags. Now, besides the Dexter stuff, Stephen had apparently been telling his family about his alter ego named Ed, who supposedly instructed him to kill someone. When his sister came home about an hour after the murder, Stephen just randomly told her that Ed made him do something bad. Now, you'd maybe think this sounds like a clear case of mental illness, right?
That's
well,
way
wrong.
worse, bro. That's
Psychiatric
fucking
experts
way
examined
worse.
him and found he was neither schizophrenic or psychotic. They said this whole Ed thing was probably just anxiety related to his autism and some narcissistic personality traits. Bottom line, he knew exactly what he was doing. So for that, he got life with at least 25 years behind bars.
Good.
Matthew Tinling blamed the movie Saw. If there's a movie franchise you'd expect to give
Bro, I know this about to be crazy, bro. Saw, a horror movie, a famous horror movie, bro. This case about to be crazy, bro. I already know this case about to be crazy.
someone ideas
let's
for
hear it,
bizarre
though.
killings, it would definitely be the Saw series. And yeah, it did just that. Matthew Tinling,
This
who
nigga looks
tortured and
crazy
murdered his
too.
roommate by copying a scene straight from Saw 6.
Which
Matthew
scene?
was living in a homeless shelter in London with 45-year-old Richard Hamilton, a former soldier who was reliant on disability payments. Both of these guys were using drugs, but Richard had something Matthew really wanted: money. Richard was getting about £300 every 2 weeks in disability benefits, which
Okay.
made him pretty much the richest guy around the place. In March of 2012, Matthew needed cash for crack cocaine, and he
Okay.
figured Richard was gonna have to provide it whether he wanted to or not. So he broke into Richard's room and started torturing the poor guy, trying to get his bank pin.
Come on,
And
bro.
how was he torturing him, you may ask? Well, Matt had been watching Saw 6 on DVD, and there's this scene where the villain Jigsaw tries to cut through someone's spinal cord. So, after stabbing Richard 17 times all over his head, neck, and legs, he decided he was going to recreate what he'd seen on TV. He went after Richard's spinal cord specifically, trying to slice right through it to paralyze him and kill him. The whole thing was just brutal and supposedly went on forever. Matthew eventually got what he was after and headed straight to a cash machine to grab 240 pounds for drugs. When police showed up, among other things, what they found among his belongings was that Saw 6 DVD. He got arrested and eventually convicted. Interestingly, in prison, he kept attacking people, so they kept adding more time to his sentence. He can't even ask for parole until 2062, which means he'll probably be in his 70s before he has any shot at getting out.
Good, nigga.
Daniel Gonzalez blamed Freddy Krueger. This one is about a guy who wanted to become a famous serial killer so badly that he decided to copy Freddy Krueger, just maybe without the scars on the face. His name was Daniel Gonzalez. He was 24, unemployed, and basically just sat around all day playing video games.
So basically a loser who played video games all day, bro. A loser ass nigga.
Games and binge watching horror
let's
movies.
hear what he did,
His
though.
mom had been trying to get him mental health help for years, even writing to her MP asking if her son literally had to commit murder to get some assistance. Turns out she got her answer the hard way. In September of 2004, Daniel grabbed some knives, Freddy Krueger style. His first target was a 61-year-old man named Peter King, who was just walking his dog in Portsmouth. Daniel walked right up to him and told him he was going to kill him. Luckily, Peter fought back and Daniel took off running. Next stop was Hove, where Daniel found 76-year-old Mary Harding. This time he changes the character and he's wearing a hockey mask like Jason from Friday the 13th, and he stabbed her to death. 2 days after that, Daniel completely lost it in London. At around 5 in the morning, he kills 46-year-old Kevin Malloy by stabbing him all over the face, neck, and body with knives he'd stolen from some department store. About an hour later, he breaks into somebody's house and stabs the guy who lives there, but this dude manages to fight him off. Then Daniel goes into a hardware store, buying himself a long knife, and heads over to Highgate where he murders this elderly couple, Derek and Jean Robinson.
Yo, why is this nigga so pussy, bro? Why you only killing old people, bro? You're fucking pussy, bro. You're pussy with knives too, bro. You're pussy with weapon, bro. I never seen that much pussiness in my life, bro. This nigga's really so pussy that he has weapons against these niggas and he's still going for the old people, bro. You're really pussy, bro. I ain't gonna lie, you're really pussy for that shit, bro. That's why your ass is in jail and that's why your ass is gonna rot in hell, bro. You fucking bitch ass nigga, bro.
Right in their own home. He told police later that killing them felt, and I quote, orgasmic, and was one of the best things he'd ever done.
Nasty,
After that, he went to his house to take a shower. Mid-cleanup, a decorator walks in for work and finds Daniel just standing there, naked, covered in blood. Daniel casually goes, "Sorry about this, mate," and walks out like it's no big deal. Obviously, the decorator called the cops, and they caught up with him. When they searched him, they found this bizarre letter he wrote to himself under his nickname Zippy, bragging about the murders and saying he wanted to be a famous serial killer, like 10 victims minimum. They also found a magazine called Freddy Krueger's Nightmares. He told police that voices were telling him to be like Freddy Krueger, and that he wanted to spend a day living exactly like that character. Well, that day ended with 6 life sentences, and the judge saying he would never get out. And, well, he never did. At least not alive. In 2007, Daniel claimed his own life in prison using pieces of a broken CD. And no, it wasn't a Freddy Krueger DVD. Thierry Gerardin found inspiration from Scream. Next is this Belgian truck driver named Thierry Gerardin. Back in 2001, Thierry was 24 and just a lonely guy driving trucks for a living. No criminal record, no history of mental problems. Seemed pretty normal to everyone who knew him. He lived just a few doors down from this 15-year-old girl named Allison Cambier. I know you can probably see where this is going. Allison would stop by Thierry's place sometimes to swap videotapes and just chat. She was friendly with the neighbors in general. On November 16th, which by the way was supposed to be her 16th birthday, she came over for what should have been a routine visit. That's when Thierry decided he was going to try something. When Allison shuts him down, this dude completely loses it. He tells her to hang on a sec and walks into the other room where he's got something stashed away, this Scream costume with the black robe, and that creepy ghost face mask from Scream. While he's in there, he grabs 2 huge kitchen knives. When he comes back out wearing all of this, he puts his hand over Allison's mouth so she can't scream, and stabs her 30 times.
Yo, I'm not gonna lie, this nigga's sick, bro. So you tell me this nigga got rejected, so he put on a Scream costume, got himself a big-ass knife, and killed the girl who rejected him? Nah, this nigga's really sick in the head. Nah, this nigga's really sick in the head. What the fuck am I looking at, bro? What the fuck am I listening to, bro? Cause no way this shit really happened. No way this shit really happened in real life. That nigga got rejected that bad that he had to put on a Scream costume, get a big ass knife, and kill the girl that rejected him, bro. That's fucking sickening, bro. That's really fucking sickening.
Absolutely brutal. Basically nasty, tore open her whole left side. After he kills her, Thierry actually carries her bloody body over to his bed and places a rose in one of her hands, like he was trying to make it romantic or something.
What the fuck?
He then picks up the phone and calls his dad and some work buddy to tell them what he did. Yes, he confessed immediately after. And when the cops showed up and started asking questions, Thierry didn't even try to lie about it. He told them straight up that he'd been planning this whole thing and that the Scream movies gave him the idea. He got life in prison.
Good, bro. That's good.
Vadim Messages and The Matrix.
The Matrix.
What if this is in real life and just a computer simulation we all live in?
I
If you
guess,
don't already
bro.
know, that's the plot from The Matrix. Well, some killers have decided to use that exact premise as their defense in court, and surprisingly, it's actually worked a few times. The whole thing started around 2000 with this Swiss exchange student named Vadim Messages who was living in San Francisco. So Vadim was 27 and had some serious mental health problems. He was getting high
can
on
tell,
crystal
bro.
meth pretty
I can really
regularly.
tell.
He was also completely obsessed with the Matrix movies, a clear recipe for disaster. In May of 2000, Vadim's landlady was really getting on his nerves, and he started thinking that she was giving off these quote-unquote evil vibes. According to him, he was scared to death of being quote sucked into the Matrix, so he
Come on,
figured that the
bro.
only way out was to kill her. And that's exactly what he did. He shot her, then literally skinned and chopped up her body before tossing her torso in some dumpster at Golden Gate Park. When cops grabbed him, he just told them straight up he did it because of the Matrix. And it worked because a judge bought into his
What the-
insanity plea, and the case never even made it to trial.
What?
But he wasn't the only one to pull off such a thing. 2 years later, there's this bartender named Tonda Lynn Ansley
Okay.
in Hamilton, Ohio, who walked up to her landlady. Coincidental that it was also a landlord. So anyway, she finds her on the street and
Okay.
shoots her 3 times in the head. Tonda
what?
claimed her landlady and 3 other people, including her own husband, were messing with her mind and making her have these dreams that weren't actually dreams. It was the Matrix. She
Bro, I'm
thought
not
killing
gonna
the
lie,
woman
bro.
was
Y'all need to get off the internet, bro, because this is what the internet's doing to regular people, bro. They're making them fucking insane, bro. Fucking me the Matrix, bro. Fucking me, bro. Cause no way you're killing niggas over a made up conspiracy theory, bro. No way people are really killing niggas over a made up conspiracy theory, but that's fucking sickening, bro. That's really fucking crazy right
totally
there.
fine because it wasn't happening in the real world. Her insanity thing worked too. It got to a point where it seemed like an easy way
How is
out.
this working though? Cause I'm not gonna lie, no offense, but these judges are bad judges, bro. Stop believing this bullshit, bro. These niggas are fucking insane, and they know exactly what they did, bro. And stop giving them that petty little excuse. They're probably insane, and it's probably okay, cause they say it was for the Matrix. But these niggas are still insane and still fucking dangerous.
For
Send
anyone,
these
really.
niggas to jail, bro. Please send these niggas to jail.
For instance, Joshua Cook in Virginia, a 19-year-old who was absolutely nuts about the Matrix. He had the poster hanging on his wall. He dressed up like Neo in this black coat and literally wore out his DVD from watching it over and over. In 2003, he grabs this shotgun that looks just like the one from the movie poster and kills his adoptive parents. Josh's lawyer tried saying he genuinely thought he was living inside the virtual reality of the Matrix when he did the murders. But the prosecution was like, what? Josh's 911 calls right after the shooting sounded pretty aware of what was real. He's talking about getting the death penalty, not saying anything about being stuck in some movie. Josh ended up pleading guilty and got 40 years.
Good.
Turns out he actually had schizophrenia, and both of his real parents had paranoid schizophrenia as well.
Bro, I don't care,
anyway,
bro.
This whole
Send that nigga
Matrix
to jail
defense got
still.
so
I don't
popular
care.
that Warner Brothers actually had to come out with a statement saying it was disturbing and irresponsible to connect their movies to real violence. John Hinckley and Taxi Driver. Now,
What does
before
that
there was
mean?
a Matrix defense or people blaming horror movies for their crimes, there was John Hinckley Jr. and Taxi Driver. This case basically started off the whole trend of killers using movies as their excuse in court. John Hinckley was this 25-year-old man from a rich family who just
Okay.
couldn't get his life together. He dropped out of college, went to LA trying to be some songwriter, and basically just wandered around the country feeling sorry for himself.
So basically, a loser who had dreams but never got to fulfill his dreams, bro. That's fucking sad, bro. That's really
Then,
sad.
in 1976, he watched Taxi Driver, a movie about this lonely cab driver named Travis Bickle, who's completely cut off from society and decides he's gonna assassinate a presidential candidate to impress this woman who shot him down. And that actually pretty much sums up John Hinckley's life. But there's more, of course. The girl in question, for example, was none other than Jodie Foster. So
that?
to impress her, he starts dressing exactly like Travis Bickle, army jackets, combat boots, all of it. He's keeping a diary just like the character, and even drinking peach brandy because that's what Travis drinks in the film. But in real
This
life,
nigga's really a
Jodie
loser, bro.
Foster goes off to Yale in 1980, and John literally packs up and moves to New Haven just to
on,
stalk
bro.
her. He's
Come
sending her
on.
these love letters and poems, calling her all the time, leaving messages. This goes on for months, and since she's not giving him the attention he wants, John starts having these fantasies about hijacking planes or killing himself right in front of her. You know, just to get her attention. But instead, he comes up with what he thinks is this genius plan.
And what
He's
was
gonna
it?
shoot the president to impress her, just like in the movie. So the dude follows President Carter around during his campaign and gets within like 20 feet of him at some rally. On March
Okay.
30th of 1981, John's reading the newspaper and sees that President Reagan's gonna be at Washington Hilton. He spends all morning
way he
writing this
actually
letter
did
to
this
Jodie
shit.
Foster, explaining what he's gonna do. Then
No
he
way
hops
this
in a
actually
taxi
put off.
and heads to the hotel. When Reagan walks out, John just starts firing. all 6 shots from his gun. He hits Reagan, Press Secretary James Brady,
What the
some
fuck?
police officer, and a Secret Service agent. He gets tackled immediately, and then they haul him off to jail. During his
Good.
trial, his lawyers actually played Taxi Driver right there in the courtroom as evidence, with John totally mesmerized by it.
What
At
the
the end,
fuck?
he gets found not guilty by reason of insanity and spends 35 years locked up in a psychiatric hospital.
Good.
And you won't believe this, but he got out in 2016, and now he's got a YouTube channel where he posts music.
That's him?
Alright guys, that's going to be it for this video. If you guys enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like.
I'm not gonna lie, that was a good video, bro. That was really an entertaining video right there, bro. So I'm gonna like it though. That was really an entertaining video right there. Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, bro. I'm kind of done with reactions, so now we're gonna play Roblox now.